Well, everyone, we get to finally talk about the PlayStation 5 and see how this console holds up in 2022. Now, I will definitely tell you the PlayStation 5 is still completely worth it. It's still a great console, but I've said this since the day the PlayStation 5 came out, pretty much even when I got my hands on it. I was saying that yes, this console is a really big design change, and I'm really hoping the PlayStation 5 ends up having an even longer lifespan than the PlayStation 4 and the 4S and the 4 Slim and the 4 Pro. However, I said this when it first came out, I think the PlayStation 4 genre, the Xbox One genre, and all of the 2010 consoles, not including the 2020 ones, these are going to be lasting a very long amount of time. And because of the pandemic and because of supply chain issues and all that, it has really slowed down the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S's kind of longevity. And this is kind of making this console, in my opinion, last a much longer period of time than expected. We're about 2 years almost in, about a year and a half, almost 2 years into this console being out, and I'm definitely going to tell you this console still has a long future ahead of it, and we're barely even getting started. I think when the PlayStation 4 came out, we kind of saw a pretty big transition, but because we have that PlayStation 4 Pro, this was the Pro model that had a ton of power within it, we already have a lot of similarities and overlap between both consoles. And even though the UI has changed with the PlayStation 5 and the design has changed, because of, extra circumstances outside of the PlayStation 5, not only because of the pandemic, but because of supply chain issues and people not being able to get their hands on the PlayStation 5, it has actually made this console, in my opinion, even longer lasting than the PlayStation 4. At least we can only hope so. Now, if you want to buy a PlayStation 5, they are getting a little bit easier to actually pick up. And every time that I go make my way over to the PlayStation 5 subreddit, or we could make our way over to comment sections of PlayStation 5 news and stuff, most people are starting to see that PlayStation 5s are becoming more available. They're still, hard to get your hands on and everything, but it is becoming an easier process. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to for the future of the PlayStation 5s. Having a console that's, super easy to get your hands on will make it a lot more appealing for developers to start ramping up production for these types of games. In my opinion, I think Rockstar is playing it smart. Even though I want them to make GTA 6 and release it like last year, they should have done that. They are purposely waiting until these next generation of consoles get into more people's hands. That way, when they go ahead and make this next generation game, it'll be mostly available for this new generation, but also available for the PlayStation 4s and all those ones. Now, starting off with the outside of the PlayStation 5, we had two different models, but they were also very similar. We had the disc one and we had the digital one. Now, depending on which one you like, personally, I like the disc one, but I like the design of the digital one a little bit more. And this was a little complicated at first because really the only thing that was missing on the digital one was that disk drive. Rather than on the Xbox Series X and S, the S was a little bit less powerful compared to the X. Even though it didn't have that disk slot, it wasn't as powerful as a console compared to the X. In this case, they have the same exact features built in. It's just that the disc one had the disc slot and the digital one did not. One other thing that I really, really liked about the PlayStation 5 was that on the front, not only were you getting that USB Type-A port on the front, but you were also getting a USB Type-C port on the front as well. In my opinion, this was the best thing that Sony pretty much did with this console, and it extremely future-proofed this console in my opinion. And I was really happy they went down this route rather than going and just keeping USB Type-A ports on all the ports like on the Xbox Series X. Now, another thing I want to hit on is pretty much with the port selection in general. Now, I do like having the disc slot for sure, and it makes it a lot easier to go ahead and play not only PlayStation 5 games, but PlayStation 4 games as well. But you can also still play PlayStation 4 games on the digital one as well if you wanted to go down that route. But that was something that I actually did kind of like on the disc one, on both consoles for sure. Now, on the back, we have the standard port selection. We have USB-A ports, we have AC adapter, we have the, HDMI ports as well. But I definitely love the design of the PlayStation 5, and Sony also gave us the ability of changing out the plates, which a lot of people are starting to like a lot more as time progresses. Now, in terms of design, love it, it's beautiful, but another big thing they changed was the controller. And from the last generation to the new generation, although I'm starting to hear that Xboxes are selling a lot, I love the, experience that Sony has pretty much given us with the PlayStation 5, and they have changed up so many things, not only for the, console itself, but the controller itself. And personally, my go-to controller nowadays is that PlayStation 5 controller. Whenever I'm playing any games on my Android phone or my PC or using any emulators, I typically do use the PlayStation 5 controller. Although I do like the Xbox controllers quite a bit too, I've been talking about them quite a bit. I think my go-to one is the PlayStation 5 one. It is a pretty big redesign from the PlayStation 4 one, even though you're kind of getting the same type of layout. You had that, trackpad in the middle of it for the most part. The D-pad, the arrow keys, all that stuff, the joysticks in the center too. So in my opinion, I mean, it's a good looking controller and I really haven't had too many issues with it. I do like the lighting scheme, and one other thing that I like about it, were chargeable battery built in with that USB Type-C port. That is something I like a lot, and like I said, USB Type-C is not going anywhere anytime soon, and these consoles have been awesome because they've been implementing so many different USB Type-C, future proofness in my opinion, on these consoles. Now, I will say there were a few things that, like the adaptive triggers, for example, in this controller. I feel like it was going to be utilized a lot more. A lot of people like it. And now iOS 15 has actually, for iPhones, have started implementing, utilizing the adaptive controllers or the adaptive, triggers in games. So now we're going to start seeing this controller starting to take shape outside of the PlayStation ecosystem, and I cannot wait for that as well. Now, in terms of the gaming library, as I mentioned before, there's still a lot of games being developed for these consoles, but so far from what I'm seeing, a majority of the games that are being made for the PlayStation 5 are also being ported over to the PlayStation 4, and although the sales numbers are still going to be coming out, I'm assuming the best days of the PlayStation 5 in terms of its sales numbers are actually ahead of us. I think maybe next year, the year after, once Black Friday comes out, the holidays, I feel like once these PlayStations start getting into more people's hands, and I believe once Sony makes that first big sale price decrease, I feel like a ton of people are going to be picking these things up. It's not even going to be funny. I also do think with something like a PlayStation 5, because the similarities between the 5 and the 4 in terms of the power, in terms of the 4 Pro, you're going to be seeing a lot of games being ported over to both these consoles, even more so than the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4, just because of exterior circumstances. We've already kind of been seeing this. There's been a lot of games that have came out not only for the PlayStation 5, but also the PlayStation 4, and all of these games are starting to be more digitalized. Because Sony is probably the next generation, maybe possibly, they're going to start focusing more on the digital realm. They're going to try to get rid of that disc slot as soon as possible. And because of that, if all the games end up going through the streaming route, I don't see why the PlayStation 5 couldn't end up lasting even longer than the PlayStation 4. Let's say the PlayStation 6 comes out, there's no disc slot within it. Well, that's going to make the PlayStation 5 disc one even more appealing to a lot more people. And because of that, more people are probably going to end up keeping the PlayStation 5. Many developers are going to see that, and they're going to end up supporting the PlayStation 5 even longer. Even if it does have the disc slot for the PlayStation 6, I still feel like something like the PlayStation 5 is going to be here for a very long period of time. Now, I do think, like I said before, when it comes down to both of these consoles, the PlayStation 5, I think in general, was probably the more impactful one than the Xbox Series X or S right now. And I'm actually more happy with the PlayStation 5 that I've been using more than the Xbox, to be honest. I love Xboxes, I love PlayStation, but I feel like the PlayStation 5, that I mentioned this in 2020 as well, I feel like the PlayStation 5 did more to differentiate it from the previous console, the PlayStation 4, than the Xbox Series X did to the Xbox One. I feel like the UIs are very same. I feel like the experiences are very, very similar from an Xbox Series X than an Xbox One X, to be honest. But with my PlayStation 5, I truly do feel like it's a completely different experience, and I'm actually really happy with how the PlayStation 5 has been aging for the last few years. I've been also noticing that some PlayStation 5 features have been starting to kind of port over, and Sony's been updating them on the PlayStation 4 to actually have certain features like that too. So I do think the PlayStation 4 is here to stay. I think the PlayStation 5 is only going to go better and better, and we'll be here next year and probably the year after that, still stating that the PlayStation 5, the best days are probably ahead of it, to be honest. So that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that means so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly, with everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.